Thank you. The gentleman's time has expired. The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from New York for 5 minutes.
Good morning, everyone, and let me start by thanking our panelists for joining us today, as well as our chairman, Chairman Latta, and Ranking Member Matsui for convening this hearing. I'm extremely proud of much of the work this committee has done in this space. While content moderation policies and reining in the ever-increasing power of big tech are certainly topics worth exploring in this venue, I'm concerned about the potential for this hearing to devolve into another airing of partisan grievances and personal anecdotes cherry-picked to spark outrage and push forth certain narratives for personal or political gain. It is widely understood that both online and here in the real world, topics that spark controversy, outrage, fear, and anger are highly effective tools for attracting attention. So I urge my colleagues to be careful not to fall into that trap. We have an opportunity to discuss substantive issues impacting all Americans, and most must take care not to let those issues take a back seat to the performative politics of outrage and fear-mongering. Our current content moderation regulatory framework is a product of decades-old legislation passed when the internet was in its infancy, as well as the court's overly broad interpretation of Section 230 in the years that followed. What began with the intent to incentivize the removal of certain harmful, objectionable, or obscene content has seemingly transformed into an all-encompassing shield protecting big tech firms from accountability for the unintended harms caused by their platforms and moderation policies. There's certainly no shortage of issues big tech can and should be taking a more aggressive stance on: harassment, hate speech, white supremacist radicalization, deepfakes, organized disinformation campaigns, sexually explicit material of children, and the list is almost endless. While imperfect, Section 230, as it is currently understood, along with the First Amendment, does not appear to provide big tech with the legal protections to tackle these issues, and yet this harmful content remains all too prevalent online. Unfortunately, the original intent of Section 230 has been lost as technology is developed, and all too often, vulnerable communities are paying the price. So my first question is for Mr. Overton. In your testimony, you noted that certain moderation regulations from major tech platforms differ from that of common carriers. Can you expound on why, from a legal perspective, that distinction was made and what it means for users of the platforms?
Sure. Thank you so much. The 11th Circuit just laid this out last year. So when people sign up, they sign agreements in terms of user agreements, which says that they'll comply with community standards. Also, it's not like broadcast where there's scarcity in terms of waves. It's more like cable. And the court has found that, cable is not a common carrier. Also, the Telecommunications Act of 1996 explicitly says, hey, these aren't common carriers. So, a variety of reasons. I really encourage folks to take a look at that 11th Circuit opinion.
Thank you. Studies have shown that not only are Black Americans subject to a disproportionate amount of online harassment due to their race, but have been purposefully excluded from receiving certain online advertisements related to housing, education, vocational opportunities. So, Mr. Overton, can you explain for us the role, intended or not, that algorithms can play in this kind of online discrimination?
Thank you, and also thank you for the Civil Rights Modernization Act that you introduced, which addresses some of these issues. In short, Facebook, its algorithms and drop-downs, they were steering housing and employment ads away from Black and Latino folks and toward white folks, and users didn't even know about it. It was a problem. Facebook said they don't have to comply with federal civil rights laws because of 230. Clearly, if the New York Times had an ad for housing of all white folks, there'd be a civil rights problem. That's not a scenario where Facebook should get a pass. It's not just there, though. Entities like Airbnb and Vrbo, they count for about 20% of lodging in the United States in terms of revenues. Hilton, Hyatt, they've got to comply with public accommodations laws, but Airbnb and Vrbo basically claim they don't have to comply.